Welcome, everybody, to the 90s Kid YouTube channel. I'm your host, Canadian Matt, and this is American Matt.
What's going on?
A little confusing because he's wearing a Canadian hoodie, but I definitely approve. You know, when I was a kid growing up in Canada, I think I was one of those little bastards that wanted to always be different all the time. And I was like, no way, you idiot friends. Canada sucks. America's number one. And I wanted to paint my room American colors. And I'd go down and spend the summers with my sister down in the States. And I was such an asshole. I didn't even like hockey. And my
Wow.
dad, yeah, exactly. And my dad put up with this, didn't give me away. But our team, our crappy, crappy Vancouver Canucks in 1994 were finally in the Stanley Cup Finals against the New York Rangers. And everybody at my school was going apeshit for it. We dedicated the whole afternoon in grade 4 to just making signs. Everyone celebrate, relax. And I recruited all the kids that didn't like hockey, and I'm like, let's all cheer for the Rangers and let's make our own New
Wow.
York signs and cheer. And I like cheered in my dad's face while I watched his team that he
Man.
came to this country from Hungary to become a Canadian. And I just laughed in his face, like, look, the team. And then the next day, I didn't even care about it. God, like, the more I reflect, I hate myself. But things I don't hate are that this Nintendo controller here is a hoax. This is a
Thank
guy.
God.
This is a hoax. Oh my lord! Have mercy, because we saw the patent of this. That was the scary
Yeah.
thing. And then we saw some blurry images, and then we saw this, and it's sitting at a desk. I know you can't see this image right at this moment, but I'm sure you have seen it, Matt, with the
Oh, yeah.
MacBook Pro, and you're like, well, it looks like a dev's desk, and it's got the like white headphones. But the guy, if you haven't seen it already, people out there, the guy came out. He's like, oh, he's a Swedish guy, I think, or Finnish,
Yeah.
and they have a company with a 3D printer, and he just thought it'd be funny, so they just made this fake Nintendo controller like the
You know,
joystick. What's that?
I wish so bad when you mentioned this in the last episode. I wish I would have said it so I could have gone on record. I knew this thing had to be fake.
Oh,
And
did
because
ya?
I swear,
You knew
I've
it.
been lurking on NeoGAF, and they made, you would not believe the hubbub that they raised over this. They actually, and this is like the scary part of the internet.
Yeah.
They were analyzing these photos, and they saw the reflection of a tree on the base of this guy's computer
Oh
monitor,
my god.
and somebody noticed in the picture that it was a Swedish keyboard layout. So they
Right.
traced this thing, and they found a tree outside of a Ubisoft studio, and
Oh
they were like,
god.
this matches up directly. This has to be
Oh
like a
no.
Ubisoft dev. Like, this thread went on, and they tracked, like, supposedly the specific tree that was reflected on a piece of plastic in the photo. They were just losing their minds trying to confirm that this thing was real. And it was like the whole forum was divided into like team fake and team real. Just this huge thing.
Oh my god.
It was nuts.
These are like all the guys that are bored of looking up JFK shooting conspiracy theories, and they've moved on to this.
Exactly.
Well, and he showed it, and like when you look at it, it's like, yeah, I just spray painted this black, and these joysticks don't actually work. There's a video on NeoGAF of people simulating what this controller would look like in action with simulated the joysticks pushing down. Like the power people have now at their fingertips is unreal. But oh god, are we glad
Yeah.
this isn't it. It's funny, the day when this photo came out, the one of the Game Informer, the like editor guy, Andy McNamara, he was like, "Hey, I'm not confirming anything, but I heard it was going to look like this."
Yeah.
And I looked, and he hadn't deleted that tweet, so good for him to leave that up, even though that this has come out. So hopefully Nintendo's learned, and they're going to have my prediction was I thought this was the mobile aspect, and you bring this with you. But even still, like a Nintendo DS and a 3DS and all those and the Game Boy were great because they had buttons. End of
Yeah.
story. So in celebration of this controller working in our favor, we're going to actually look back at the history of the Nintendo controllers and
Cool.
just and our experiences with them. So starting off with number one, we've got the original Nintendo controller. Before that, there was actually like a Famicom controller that was more red and had a microphone built into it, but we're gonna start with this one. Now, growing up with this thing, I remember the corners of my hands hurting
Oh
because
yeah.
of the horrible rectangle design. I remember
Yeah.
the buttons being very spongy. But I remember the D-pad working really, really well. The thing was so durable, and cartridges were so durable. It was the perfect thing to have around your kids because you could spend a couple $100s on this system. You didn't worry about your kids like scratching your DVD at the time or a Blu-ray. I mean, the worst you could do was like pull out of the ribbon of a VCR tape.
Right.
Speaking of which, I was checking out a video of like a Rocket League goal on PS4 because that game's amazing, and I was wanted to reverse the video, right?
Right.
And it's actually called rewind, which was invented from tapes because you would actually like wind the tape backwards instead of
Yeah.
forwards. So I'd love to ask somebody out there, if you're way too young to know what a VCR is, what do you think that word is? Like, do you pronounce it rewind? Do you just accept that that's what it is? I was thinking this the other day with like phones. Like, I'm not going to say, okay, I'm going to hang up now because I don't ever hang up a phone on a wall like I
Right.
did in 1996. So, God, I'd love to talk to some 12-year-old Minecraft player who's like, yeah, rewind that video, man. Just blow that rewind back. Matt,
I'm sure they know the word, they just don't know what it means. There are probably a lot of those too that we use very commonly that date back from centuries ago, and we just completely take it for granted.
oh, Ishkabibble. So,
Yes.
how do you feel about this controller, Matt? How was it? How was it for you growing up?
It treated me so well as a kid. I remember, like you said, just not ergonomic whatsoever. Very uncomfortable to hold for long periods of time. Will make your hands cramp up, but just as basic gets. You got your D-pad, you got your two buttons, start and select. That is all you need for platformers. There was a great Kung Fu game I remember on NES, and I just thought it was so complex and cool. And of course, you had Dragon Warrior was my favorite game, still one of my favorite RPGs ever. And it's all you need. You got to be able to move, and you need a couple buttons. That's all. A confirmation maybe, and a back button, or a jump and an attack. They got it, man. They nailed that one.
And having
Timeless.
having the buttons in a way that were where your thumb pushed down on one and then it leaned over for the other one. So
Sure.
one thumb was doing like quite a bit, and they eventually improved on that with
Bum-ba-dum.
the Super Nintendo one, which is going to be coming up here in just a second. Now, with the Super Nintendo controller, I found was incredibly ahead of its time. I mean, having shoulder pads
Yeah.
on there, having 4 face buttons was just crazy. What did you think about the color schemes back then? Were you one of those ones like, because the Genesis was sort of the, oh, this is more adult and mature and don't play Altered
Yeah.
Beast, but the rest of them are okay, and it was all black and stylized, whereas the Super Nintendo was purple.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, that didn't matter to me at all. I do like the Super Famicom, like I wish I had the colored buttons that they got in Japan.
Green,
But
blue, yellow, and red.
yeah, right. I guess they were kind of reviving on the new 3DS, which I love the way it looks. I think that's really cool. But yeah, that was I still have my Super Nintendo controllers laying around, and one of them, the protective coating that like coats all the wires and the copper and stuff on the inside is like completely
Oh, really?
stripped away, and it's
Okay.
like I can still plug that thing in, and it works. And I've been looking into they make these little USB controllers that it's like just an exact replica of the Super Nintendo controller that you use for emulators and stuff.
Right.
I want that so bad because that controller was so good.
It was good, but I mean, don't you find that you can't just get the same thing from, because if we really look at the blueprint of controllers now, they're exactly the same. All they did was thicken them out and add 2 more shoulder buttons.
Yeah.
It's that same exact position of those 4 face buttons. I've got a picture up here for people to see the Famicom controller, and then we'll go over to classic light purple and
You know what?
dark purple.
Since you're looking at that controller, are the buttons laid out? Is it the top 2 buttons? Is it Y on the bottom and X on top, and then B on the bottom and A on top?
Yes,
See, that's the one thing, and this is
'cause it's
not
not alphabet.
Nintendo's fault. It's
Right.
like everybody else like moved on to where X is always on the bottom and A is always on the bottom, and Nintendo flips that. You'll find this now that you just bought a Wii U.
Yeah.
For the viewers that don't know, and you're gonna find out when you're playing games, and you're gonna get a prompt on screen that says press X, and you're immediately gonna go. Your thumb's just muscle memory. You're gonna go over there to the left,
Right.
and you're gonna be tapping Y without knowing it, and it's pretty confusing. But
Ah.
I guess they did do that first before all these newfangled Xbox controllers and whatnot.
I wonder, because that's reverse alphabetical order. I wonder if it's because in Japan they write from the right to the left. So that
Could
might have
be.
been why they did it. I don't have a lot of muscle memory attached to Xbox controllers, so when I think of X, I'll be hitting the cross, what I think is the cross button. I'll be hitting the bottom one.
Okay,
So I'll be pressing
gotcha.
B, which is probably going to send it backwards. I always thought it was funny when you played like Metal Gear Solid or Final Fantasy VII, and you had to get used to pressing the X button. That like in North America, we're like, yeah, press that button. That's the one that goes forward, and in Japan, that always means go backwards. So wrapping your head around that. Super Nintendo controller, incredible, and it meant that if you were playing Street Fighter, you could play it with all 6 buttons, even though it was always like, you play a lot of fighting games.
Yeah.
For the 6 button format, what do you end up putting on your shoulder buttons? Because I would always put the mediums up there, and I'd have my light
Oh,
heavies on the bottom.
it was always heavy for me. Kept it standard, going light, medium, heavy from bottom to top.
All right, keeping it cool. All right, moving on to the N64 controller. Not great for fighting games, even though it had the 3 and a layout, because the C buttons were not. They weren't great for like fast action. They weren't all that comfortable. They were a fantastic navigational system.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat to have that. I mean, when Nintendo made a game that was designed for those buttons, like Zelda, or using it to control a camera in Mario, it was almost like this
Right.
controller was built for Mario,
Yeah.
or Mario was built for this controller. Whatever it was, it worked really well. But then just try porting a game over, and that's why we never saw anything like Street Fighter on these systems. That's
But
not
you
the
did
reason.
have Super Smash Brothers, and they worked completely fine for that because the C
Right.
buttons were just you use those to jump.
Exactly, and that's the thing is like using a game that works with the controller. It's this controller is pretty neat with the Z button. It was really interesting because we'd never had a controller where you had multiple different ways to hold it, and that
Yeah.
by holding it in a different way, you lost access to the other buttons. Where
Yeah.
you're either using the D-pad or you're using that joystick.
Right.
Although a really good implementation was in the Aki wrestling games, Revenge, No Mercy, WrestleMania. You would always use the D-pad to control your wrestler, but you would just tap the joystick right in the middle, and that would be like your taunt button, or you could do your special move. So you only used it in very spare instances, and it was a nice. I thought it was like a genius way to incorporate the joystick into something. And because it didn't matter which direction you did it in most of the time, you didn't need the accuracy, which is good because you were going from here to like putting your thumb
Yeah.
down there. Yeah, an interesting controller. 3 prongs. I don't think we'll ever see another one like that again.
Yeah, that was. I remember before I actually owned an N64, and I think I was either trying it at a friend's house or in a store. I can't remember, but I was trying to hold it like a classic controller,
Right.
and I was like, "This is the stupidest. Like, how do they expect you to reach the joystick and use it?" I was trying so hard.
Right.
It wasn't until I actually got my own and started playing Star Fox that I realized this is how you hold it, and
Yeah.
it feels actually really good when
It
you hold
does.
it like that. It's just kind of weird to hold it in the middle and kind of off to the side almost.
Mm-hmm.
Just yeah, I mean, it's just so atypical from what we were used to up to that point. But it felt really good in your hands.
And just having this leftover part on the left side for the majority of the time, this D-pad that was there, it was just like it was a relic, like an artifact. It was this dinosaur piece that was there. Like, yeah, well, we used to have them, and maybe people will need them. So here it is. But they pushed forward with Rumble. They pushed forward with
Yeah,
having a joystick, and that's how everybody plays now. It'd be nice to have a few more face buttons sometimes, but I like how we've worked it out.
that
Um,
Rumble pack changed everything, dude.
Oh my God, yeah, it did. It was like every single controller now has that,
Yeah,
and I remember the first time playing Metal Gear Solid when you feel the heart attack from the Derpa chief. I think the guy in the jail cell, and that starts off with like the rumble pack pumping, Psycho Mantis saying, "Put the controller on the floor. I'll make it move with my mind."
that's funny.
Going on from N64, we have the GameCube controller. Purple, again, multicolored, a giant big, like multiple shaped and sized buttons. 2 joysticks now, the D-pad in a different spot, but swapping it over, reflecting the change in the more importance of a joystick over a D-pad. Only the 2 shoulder buttons, but the shoulder buttons they measured distance. Oh, actually, no,
I have
it had the second one on the right, the Z button. Are you looking for your GameCube controller?
yeah, it might be man, I wish I would have done this before we started the show because I have an N64 controller and a GameCube controller probably right behind me, but I think it
I'll
might
flip
be in the box right here.
I'll flip the camera over to me, and you go look for that. All right? Does that
I'm
work?
gonna do that. I'm
Okay.
gonna do that.
All right. All right. So we're talking about the GameCube. Actually, while Matt's looking for that, I'm going to show you my purchase today. I've been talking to Matt a lot about getting a Wii U, and he's just been telling me so much about it. And I know that the Wii U is probably dead in a little while, and I'm definitely probably going to get an NX. But isn't this thing so cool? It's like a Game Gear. You can play this in your bed. You can play this when your girlfriend is watching something, and I'm just so excited to have this thing. It came with Super Smash Brothers, which I'm probably going to sell or trade for Mario Kart or maybe Nintendo Land or Splatoon because I want to beat Matt's ass at one of those games. So super excited. I drove for over an hour to get it because I got a crazy deal on it, 180 Canadian dollars, way out in a place called Oshawa, which is a really tiny like farming, rural kind of town. In Canada, we have a lot of those. So super excited for that. Drove over 2 hours to get it. Girlfriend saw the bag when I came in, and I just said, "Oh, this is a cheap Nintendo thing. Don't you worry about it." But yeah, I'm excited to get into the Nintendo universe and start playing some of those games. There's a different aesthetic to Nintendo games that I really miss from like I love the PS4 obviously. I love what all the other consoles and what PC's doing with especially with like indies now. It's not just the AAA games that are like bro shooters. You've got all the indie space, a lot of creativity going on. But Nintendo has a definite style, and they have a pedigree, and they have a proven track record, and they still make great games. They still make, and people that accuse them of only being able to rehash Mario, Zelda, Mario Kart, Mario Tennis, which wasn't very good. You know, they showed with Splatoon what they can do with brand new IPs. So really looking forward to what they can do. This show is starting to feel like a Nintendo fanboy show, but there wasn't a lot of news today, so we decided to just have some fun and look at what we have. Now Matt is coming back on camera, so I see some wires he's got. Let's have a look. I can't hear you, Matty boy. You got no microphone.
What up, world?
There he is. He's back. What do you got for us? What's in the toy bag?
I did find one of my NES controllers.
Excellent.
Original Real McCoy there.
Look at those gray bars. Why are they there? It's sort of like Darth Vader-esque. Very Darth Vader, actually, the whole thing. It was a very alien-looking object. That was an event.
It feels uncomfortable. Got our GameCube controller here.
That tiny little start button. You know what I liked about this controller? It said, "Fuck you, select button. No one needs you. Get out of here."
Man, this was a good controller. There's a reason people still buy these to play Smash Brothers on the Wii U. The buttons are just perfectly placed, and instead of the C buttons having that little C joystick, that was a perfect
brilliant
replacement.
Yeah, and it also fit what the PS2 was doing with its Dual Shock and the Xbox with its two controllers, two joysticks. Yeah, that was it was too bad because a lot of people thought, "Oh, the GameCube, it's purple, it's small, it has a handle, and it has 4-player co-op. Ooh, only kids play 4-player co-op. I want Xbox Live, I want to play online, shoot adults in the face, and then have other kids yell at me." But this controller, like that whole generation, Wind Waker as well. People just shit on Nintendo, and I think that's why they were like, "Fine, we'll go do our own thing if you guys don't like the way we're doing it." The GameCube was super powerful. It was actually the last time that Nintendo was more powerful than, say, PS2 in a lot of ways. There's some varying aspects of graphical power in that area, but it was a very powerful system. I mean, it ran Resident Evil 4, no problem. So, GameCube controller, it's too bad that you're gone, but you're not really gone, are you? Because lots of people still use them
still
today.
Using that sucker.
Yeah, man. People, some of the Wii U's I was looking at today, people are selling those like the four little holes for the GameCube port. Let's look at what Nintendo did next with the Wii, the nunchuck, and the joystick. This was a pretty cool idea, having a joystick.
Should I go get the remote and the nunchuck? It's right here.
I have a picture up of it. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we believe you.
Guys.
How about this, Matt? Did you ever put the wrist strap on and the condom for it?
I don't have the humongous, thick, ridiculous condom that they wanted everybody to get, but I usually did play with the wrist strap because I played a lot like a Wario. There's a WarioWare game on there, and I love those games.
WarioWare.
And one of the mini games, as you're holding the remote, just has you drop it. So you have, unless you have your wrist strap on, you just have to drop your controller on the floor.
Wow.
Yeah.
That could hurt some toes, but if you have that giant condom on there, it'll probably just bounce right back up and you can grab it.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting what they did, breaking the joystick off to the other side. I thought felt pretty natural. I mean, it obviously cut down on the amount of buttons you could have.
Yeah.
But for what the Wii did, it made a lot of sense. I always thought the biggest missed opportunity with this was that they didn't replicate what a mouse could do, and I thought that with having the Wii as a pointer, was perfect. You should have been able to have far greater control over, say, an aiming reticule, just like a mouse, because you can just aim it up just minutely. You can control it.
Yeah.
It's not like with the right joystick on. I mean, there's some people that get pretty amazing at playing competitive shooters with Xbox and PS4 controllers, but there is nothing like a mouse. And I think the Wiimote could have been there. They were so far removed from that like AAA space of competing with Call of Duty. They eventually got Call of Duty games, but it didn't really work. How did you like
Yeah.
the waggle?
Uh,
Which is almost a detrimental way of saying it, but that's really what it was.
it just depends on how it was implemented. It depends on kind of how it was worked in to a particular game.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know like Super Mario Galaxy, there's a lot that you do in there by kind of shaking the controller around.
Yeah.
But you find really quickly that you can do it with very small movements. You can do it very subtly, and it didn't really bother me at all. I loved my Wii, and I love the games on the Wii, and I really appreciate while it's not the sexiest controller in the world, and it does
Condoms are
catch a
never
lot of
sexy.
flack. Yeah, right. They did what they were trying to do. They really, I mean, there's a reason that it sold over 100 million units. They wanted something that anybody in your family could look at
Absolutely.
and feel like they could pick it up.
It
You
looked like a
hold
remote
it.
control. It looked like
Exactly.
a portable phone at the time, not a cell phone. It just fit in your hand, anyone's hand. My stepmom, I've told this before, she was amazing at Wii bowling, and had never really played any other video game, and destroyed me. And I was so cocky going into that, and it was something anyone. And you only needed one controller for a lot of those games. You just passed it around the room. It was so social. It was so genius how they did it. They would have been stupid to not try to incorporate a bit of that in when they went to the Wii U. I mean, you had to. You sell that many
Right.
consoles. You bring in Nintendo back, making them relevant. I liked that they went for kind of an Apple aesthetic. I love the Wii menu. I love this like soft kind of beep beep bop boop bop beep
Yeah.
beep beep beep. The like white screen. I like how they're always reminding you to go outside.
Yeah.
All right.
Very Nintendo.
Yeah, thanks, Uncle Miyamoto. Let's look at what they did next. The Wii U Tablet. They just put everything into this. They tried to appease the hardcore people with two joysticks, face buttons. Does it have four shoulder buttons on top or just two?
It has four.
It's got the four. All right, so they can play your typical games just like everybody else. It's got the dual screen like a DS. They threw that
Yep.
in. It's gyroscopic control, right?
Yep.
And that little dash that's on the bottom left of it, what is that, for tapping amiibos onto it?
Yep. That's the NFC reader. So it's for Amiibo or the Amiibo cards
Mm-hmm.
or any kind of. They didn't do too much else with that really, but I think that's all it was meant to be for. But pretty much anything NFC related.
And it's got
Skylanders, stuff like that if you play that.
okay, now could you quickly, because you and me were going back and forth in this, and you convinced me of the usefulness, because I thought, I don't want a tablet. I never want to look down when I'm playing a game. And you had a great point. Could you just elaborate that when you were saying how you use this in Splatoon?
Yeah,
For,
so
for
they're
the for everyone else in the world that hasn't played Splatoon. I know you and 12
right.
other people have, but
Exactly. There are things that you can do with a second screen that is readily available that you just wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Just a couple simple examples in Splatoon. There are certain special attacks that once your meter fills up over time, you can do these attacks and you trigger the attack, and throughout the whole game, the mini map is displayed on your screen. And to unleash this attack without having to pause or bring up a menu or like point something at your screen, you just really quickly tap the point on the map that you want this kind of ink strike to come down, and it happens. Or when you respawn, or at any point really, you can see all of your teammates are represented on the mini map, which is updated in real time. You can always glance down and see which colors are filling up which spots and which team is in the lead, and you can tap any of your teammates and then kind of like launch to them. And it's a
right.
really core mechanic for the game. It drives a lot of your strategy, and it's very important. And the game would not be the same at all without it. And it's something you absolutely couldn't do without the second touch capable screen. And then when they're upgrading games like Wind Waker HD, it's simple stuff like having your whole inventory and the map is just right there on that screen, and you never have to pause the game and
Right.
stop what you're doing if you want to swap out items or use an item or stuff like that. It's just some of it is convenience, and some of it is just outright like really great utility. And you after a while you get used to how useful this is. And Nintendo is really intentional about trying to use that second screen in a lot of their first party titles, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse,
Right.
but usually it's for the better. And if nothing else, it's perfect for remote play.
Well, I like it. I was convinced that it was going to be just some sort of like gimmicky thing. They're tossing it on there, but hearing all the different ways you can use it, I was thinking, right, anytime I'm pressing start in a game is such a break in the action. Sometimes it's nice to like press pause and be able to have that like moment to breathe. Like I noticed when I was playing Fallout 4, I was pressing pause all the live long day, man. Like and cheating and grabbing health. And I thought this is nice because I'm getting through this battle, but it felt pretty cheap in the end to do it. So.
You know what I want you to do as well, if you are not yet impressed with this screen, something you should do immediately. Costella is into art. She likes to paint and stuff, right?
That's my lady. And yes, she
Yes.
is.
Um, Go online, and if you don't buy it immediately, at least check out Art Academy. I think it's called Art Academy Home Studio, and you use the stylus and the screen on your gamepad
Right.
to sketch and to paint and to create works of art, and it will blow your mind what people are doing with this tablet. Go onto
Okay.
Miiverse, go onto Miiverse and join the Art Academy community,
Okay.
and just scroll through and see what people are doing. And just know it, you really won't believe it. You think surely these people are in Photoshop, they're doing this on their computer. These are people with their Wii U tablet and a stylus that are doing things through Art Academy, and it's mind-numbingly good. It's like top quality stuff, and the amount of talent and art that is just in the Nintendo community that people just throw out there in their spare time is crazy. And it's a great game. It teaches you step by step how to like draw stuff and paint stuff. And I'm not a very talented artist at all, and I've made some kick-ass looking paintings and stuff on there.
Sweet.
It's worth checking out.
Maddie, I want to I want to do this. I've been actually it's funny. She just got me I teach some painting classes with her. I'm the lowly assistant, like I'm the Igor. And she beats me when I don't do it right, but she's been showing me a little bit of like how to paint stuff. So this could be cool. Could bring us
She
together.
would probably really like that.
I will I'll take your advice and please my lady with this new
Cool.
purchase. Well, that's gonna do it. There wasn't a lot of news today to report on. We just wanted to have a little bit of fun and go through the Nintendo evolution of the controllers. We're excited for the NX. We're excited for VR. I think it's going to be a pretty exciting year all around for everybody. So I want to thank you very much for joining us. Check out our podcast on Wednesdays. We have different videos going up through the week, different streams, let's plays, tutorials, walkthroughs, opinion pieces. Check out Matt's interesting video called Unraveling the Mystery of the Witness. But until we meet again, you have fun out there.
See you guys.